What up, students? This is the cube perspective drawing. Here we go. Guys, this is one of my all-time favorite projects just because this really gives you the idea of how to set up a composition when you're wanting to deal with depth. And it's a lot easier visually than what it looks like. And really, it's a lot like math. Like with math, there's certain rules, and as long as you follow those guidelines and rules, like you're gonna come out with the right answer. Same thing with this. There's steps and there's guidelines, and as long as you follow the steps and guidelines, you're going to be making a beautiful and perfect picture. Again, start brainstorming some ideas. You just never know what creative idea you might come up with. Be original, have fun, be creative. Here we go. For the perspective cube drawing, I've got my piece of paper here, and I've got it in landscape mode, which is long way side to side. And my first step is to declare my horizon line. So I need to have a line, straight line that goes through the entire page. So I'm gonna go ahead and measure the side here at 6 since this is 12. The middle 6, again, measure this side, 6, and then draw a straight line across. Now again, I am doing this very, very lightly because there's a lot of lines that I'm gonna want to erase. Because perspective, we're placing in the illusion of what it looks like, but just because the cube goes all the way, like just because the convergence lines go all the way back to the vanishing point, doesn't mean that I'm gonna want to see the convergence lines. Even the horizon line, maybe my cubes are floating in space, I'm not gonna want the horizon line there. So it's one of those situations where you're drawing lightly with the anticipation that you're gonna erase a lot of these lines. For your sake though, I am gonna draw these lines in hard because I want you to be able to see them. So again, you are drawing super, super light. Mr. Ash though, I'm gonna draw hard so therefore you can see those lines. Now for this drawing, remember, no matter what we do, no matter what shape it is, it needs to be a shape that only has horizontal and vertical lines. So in this particular assignment, should we be doing diamonds? No. Should we be doing letters with diagonal lines? No. So I'm going to start off with my first shape. I'm going to do it up here in the corner. We'll make it 3 inches. We'll make this shape semi-large. 3 inches. I can judge to see if I'm parallel with my horizon line by looking at my ruler right here. I can tell that my line over here was not perfect. Again, I can check to see by if my ruler is parallel with the upper edge of my paper. And so I have my vertical lines that go up and down and my horizontal lines that go side to side. Now I need my convergence lines. Again, these shapes that you're drawing only have 3 lines. One line, vertical line. Another line is a horizontal line. And then the last line you're going to be using are convergence lines. A convergence line are lines that go from your shape to the vanishing point. You should always go from your shape to the vanishing point. That is key. So, right here. Right here. And then right here. Now I need to draw in where this shape ends back into the distance. Okay, right now I have a never-ending cube. I don't want a never-ending cube. I need to make sure that I end it somewhere. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna take my ruler and I'm just gonna line it up with my horizon line and then end it. I'm gonna end it with a horizontal line, and then this is the line that gets a little tricky for people. The last line, it needs to be perfectly vertical. So I'm gonna line up my ruler. I'm gonna judge the edge of my ruler to this vertical line right here. I feel like it looks fairly parallel. I can also judge my ruler to the edge of the paper. Feels parallel to me. And then draw it in. And then everything that's behind that, now I can erase it. And now I have my first cube. I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna do a cube down here, but I'm gonna do a different style. I just flipped my ruler because sometimes it's easier to see if you're parallel or not when your ruler is next to the horizon line, and the other way my ruler was covering the horizon line, so I really couldn't judge that well. So visually I'm trying to give my visual cues as best as possible. My visual cue right now is definitely whether my ruler is parallel with my existing lines. So as you can see, I have my vertical lines, my horizontal lines, now my convergence lines. I know that over here my convergence lines came from the left to the right, but now that this cube is on the right hand side, my convergence lines are actually going to go from the right to the left. Again, this is the tricky line. I need to make sure that I am lined up parallel with my existing lines, and I'm good. This cube, I told you I was going to do a little differently. I'm actually going to make this cube right here, make it look like it's hollow. So right here, I'm going to line up from this corner to that vanishing point, and draw another convergence line, but I need to end right here. Now I have it see-through. I don't have to draw these back lines at all because these lines would end right here at this corner, right where that's lined up. Since this cube is angled this way and so far back, I just can't see the back of the cube. I'm gonna go ahead and do another cube that's gonna be a little different for you, so therefore you have that as an example. I'm gonna do an L shape. Again, I can do this shape because I only have vertical and horizontal lines. Now that I have my lines in, again, time for the convergence lines. Actually, I'm going to start with this one right here. Now, just to give you a heads up, these lines are going to be a little difficult to do just because it's so close to the horizon line. So it's going to look like it's squished
But I promise you, as long as you follow what you're supposed to do, you'll be good. You see how it's almost like a sliver? So again, I'm going to end it. And I'm going to start up here because that's the sliver part. I'm going to let that determine how thick this cube gets. So I am parallel with my horizon line. Come straight across, end it, and now this corner is the corner that decides where it goes down. And then when it comes down here and makes that corner, that's the corner that decides where it's going to go over. I do have a question for you. What's going to happen with a cube that is smack dab in the middle here? How many sides do you think I'm going to see? Can I see the right side? Can I see the left side? No, it's because visually it's right in the smack dab in front of me, but it's higher than my horizon line, so therefore I'm going to see not only the front, but I'm also going to see the bottom as well. What about a cube that would be right in the middle here? I'm not going to do it because I don't want a cube there. But what if the cube was right here? What would I do? How many convergence lines would you see? If you said that you would see 0 convergence lines, you're right. Because since it's right in the middle, I can only see one surface of the cube. I can only see the front. I'm going to do one over here. And I want to show you a few tricks. I'm going to have one actually off of the paper. It's going to be cropped off. And then I'm going to have another one that is, I'll put it right here. It's going to be overlapping. And now I need to decide, I'm going to follow the exact same rules, but I need to decide which one's overlapping what. So I am actually going to have this one overlapping that one, which means I'm going to erase this right here. Now I still need to see where this corner is, because I'm going to draw in a line just for reference on where it's at. And then from here, I'm going to draw in my vertical line. And I'm going to draw in my horizontal line. Now the reason why I did it in these steps with this guy is because I want to visually see how far back, like where I want this to end, right here. And I'm going to show you how to do that in 1 second. But I want to finish this guy. So what I'm going to do is I don't want him to be as long. Back into the distance. And then this part of the back cube would be erased because again, he is overlapping this cube up here. And then what I can do is, as long as I'm lined up here on my vanishing point, I can just draw on a convergence line right up here. And as long as I'm lined up, it works. And now what I'm doing is I'm telling my viewer that the point is somewhere, like the corner of the cube is somewhere up here. Same thing with this one. As long as I line it up right here on the vanishing point, I can tell the viewer that it is right here. And now I have this really cool illusion that I've got cubes popping out. And it looks pretty good right now. Right now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I need one more in order to fulfill that 7 cube requirement. I'm not too sure how many more I'm gonna do. I might go beyond 7. I might do 10 because they're looking pretty cool. All right, so now that I have my cubes done, now it's time to start filling in with my holes. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start placing in holes where I want my element to move through, so therefore it creates an eye track. So what I need to do first is, with a very, very light line, I need to figure out how this element is going to move through one cube to the other, okay? So first off, I should probably figure out what my element's going to be, and then after that, then figure out like how I want it to be laid out. So let's say that I want a cat playing with some yarn, and the ball of yarn is traveling through, and maybe down here I have the cat like laying on its back and playing with the ball of yarn. Like, I want it to be somewhat interactive. I want it to be somewhat kind of cool to look at and just spend some visual time at it. If I just do that with, you know, just a string, maybe a fishing pole off here and then a fishing line that just goes around, and that's it, that's not going to be very interactive for the viewer. It's not going to be very entertaining. So try to come up with the composition of your piece and how you want your element to interact with your cubes. Now that I know what I want, I can start working my element through the area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have it start off on the side, and it's going to come through here, come out this side, travel around, up through the bottom, out the front, and I'm going to have it come off, and then I'm going to actually have it here, because down here I'm going to have an astronaut that's just floating in space. So this is actually going to be a spatial composition to where it's all going to be colored black, and the cubes will be different colors, and then you'll see like the oxygen tube that is traveling through the cubes, and then back to him, and then off on the side. Now that I have my line mapped, now what I can do is I can start placing in my holes. There are 3 kind of holes. There are what I like to call flats, fatties, and skinnies. All right, so flats are found on the fronts and backs of the cubes. Now, you're not going to see the ones on the back, so you don't need to worry about that. Skinnies go on the sides of cubes. It doesn't matter if it's this side here or if it's this side here, it's a skinny. Because it's a circle that is done in that perspective, okay? And then fatties go in the tops and bottoms of cubes. So there's a fatty, and then there's a fatty. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish up by placing in holes in all of the areas that my element is working through these cubes. I don't need to put holes in all of my sides, just in the areas of where it's going in and out of cubes. All right, guys, so this is what I've got. I've got my finished pencil drawing for the most part. There's one more thing I got to do before it's actual like a finished pencil drawing. Right now I have a line still as my element, and this is supposed to be the tube, the oxygen tube coming off his back. So I need to go around that light line that I have, and I need to make that line into a thick line because it's a tube. So whatever your element is, this is the time for you to make it for what it is. The lines now, the stick line I want to erase, and then whatever this tube is overlapping, so for example, this line of the cube or this line of the hole, I want to make sure that I erase those areas, okay? So any line that I don't want, it has to be erased, and any line that I do want needs to be drawn in there before you move on to the next step. The next step would be tracing all of my lines with a permanent marker. I prefer an Ultra Sharpie permanent marker rather than just a normal Sharpie, just because it's going to make your lines nice, crisp, neat, and thin, but yet stand out for how dark they're going to be. So again, I'm making sure that it's a finished pencil drawing before I move on, which means that all lines that I want are there and all lines that are erased are gone. All right, guys, so this is my final drawing here. Now it's time to start coloring. I got a final pencil drawing in, and then what I did was very carefully I traced over my pencil lines with ultrafine Sharpie. I made sure that with my cubes, guys, you work so hard at having nice straight lines. It's gonna be best and it's gonna look nicest if you go ahead and use a ruler while tracing over your horizontal and vertical lines for your cubes. I promise you it's going to make a nicer finished product. So here I've got my astronaut. I've got a rocket in the background and the tube going from the rocket all the way back to the astronaut. And I've got this curved line here, which is Earth. And then all my other lines are gone, erased. And as of right now, I am really happy and pleased with my drawing. So now it's time for coloring. This is how you color. What I'm going to do and what I want you to do is I want you to focus on just gradual value change and choosing a cube, and I'll go ahead and do this cube for you right now. And I'm gonna choose a corner or a side, and I'm gonna just go from one corner or one side, and I'm gonna start off with a dark value by pressing hard, and then as I work to the opposite side, I'm gonna release the pressure of my pencil and go from dark to light. Then what I'm gonna do is, after I get done with this corner, I'm gonna pretend that this corner is then flipped and on this side. If it was flipped, it would be back here, the far left corner, and then I'm gonna go from dark to light all the way down here. Same thing with this. If this surface of the cube was flipped and down here, where would this corner be? It'd be right here. So then I'm gonna go dark to light. For this assignment, I want you to practice gradual value change. I want you to start practicing having that control. The more we practice in 7th and 8th grade, the better off your coordination with a pencil is going to be in high school. So that's the reason why we're doing it this way. It gives you a lot of practice and you're going to be well off. All right, so now that I got my first cube done and I've got nice gradual value change going in the direction that I want it, some things I want to talk about real quick is making sure that you follow some of the guidelines and the rules of good craftsmanship of coloring. With this assignment, what I want you to do is, one, I want you to color with gradual value change. Two, I want you to stay nice and neat and color inside the lines, something you've been working on since kindergarten. Three, I want you to focus on coloring in the same direction, because once you change direction, it really makes it look like a scribble. I really want you to stay away from that. When you scribble, it steals the attention of your project. We want your coloring to
complement your project and not steal the attention from your project. And then 3, also color in all of the area. We don't want it to be like open spaces between your coloring. The other thing, before I go ahead and do the rest of the project, I want to talk about like the inside of your circles. The inside of your circles is the inside of the cube, which is an area where light can't get to. So really, it's going to be dark inside there. And then also my element is probably going to have a little bit of a shadow. So I'm going to go ahead and add in a little bit of a shadow that's starting right on my element because of that cube. Okay, so I really want you to start thinking about like how the light works, what's happening, and you know, in our world, light is constantly changing. Light is constantly different from one area of a surface to the other, and I really want you to start thinking about how that works in our world and how you're going to place that on to your artwork. All right, guys, so this is the coloring for the cubes. As you can see that I really worked hard on the transitions. I've got it going from dark to light, gradual value change constantly. I'm coloring in the same direction. I stayed inside the lines. It's nice and neat. I've got my element working through. I've added some shadows in areas just to give a little more of illusion that light is working throughout my piece. And now I'm gonna go ahead and do the background. All right, guys, so this is my finished product. Guys, practice, practice, practice. That gradual value change, get better at it, and challenge yourself. Work hard, do your best. Here we go.